January 4th, 2025, Buddhadhamma, chapter 11.4, advantages and disadvantages of sukha, of happiness. Page 1123. As mentioned earlier, Gautama Buddha examined the advantages and disadvantages of all things. In case that something still possesses both advantages and disadvantages, he would then describe how one may pass beyond them. That is, he would explain how further development is possible. Looking at things in this way enables a continual development. When one reaches a particular point, one acknowledges both the advantages and the disadvantages, asata and atitnava, the negative and the positive aspects of it. So the asata is the positive aspect of it. Atitnava is the negative aspect or the disadvantages of it. One looks at them for the way of nitsarana, escape, release, leading to the next stage, and one develops the necessary conditions to move on. In whatever work or activity one is engaged, the examination of these three factors leads to ongoing development. One does not get lost in thinking that one has reached completion. One does not stop making effort, virya, and become passive, negligent, and heedless, which results in missed opportunities. Let us now look at the advantages and disadvantages of sukha. Rather than go into a detailed analysis of many different kinds and stages of happiness, here the discussion will focus on some preliminary features of sukha that are related to other spiritual qualities and that pertain to people's everyday life. In such spiritual quality which is relevant to everyone and is connected to meditation, to spiritual practice, and to every aspect of learning and concentration of samadhi or samadhi. Sukha, happiness, is expressively valuable to concentration. In the Tipitaka, sukha patatano samadhi, happiness is the basis and criterion for concentration. It is the proximate cause for concentration. The literal meaning of sukha, happiness, is convenient or easy. One is free from pleasure, obstruction, affliction, struggle, agitation, and anxiety. In other words, one is peaceful. Happiness leads to peace within the mind. The mind is peaceful. Concentration arises easily. Santi, 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 peace, peace, peace. A happy and tranquil mind is prepared for concentration. Happiness is the characteristics of high quality of life. Arihats, for example, when they are not engaged in specific activity, dwell in the state of mind referred to abiding at ease in the present. Buddhadhamma sukha vihara, which is most often a state of concentration absorption, jhana. There are many disadvantages of happiness. In particular, happiness may lead to carelessness, infatuation, obsession, indulgence, procrastination, indifference, or laziness. Concentration, samadhi, which is based on happiness, is similar disadvantages. In the Tipitaka, samadhi, concentration, is sometimes referred to as belonging to the same faction as laziness, kosaja pakha. At the same time, however, samadhi, concentration, belongs to the 37 factors of enlightenment, bodhipakkhya dhamma. Samadhi, concentration, is directly associated with awakening. It lies alongside awakening. Awakening is dependent on samadhi, concentration. Here simply note that samadhi concentration is the factor for enlightenment, but that it is also associated with laziness. When one examines spiritual qualities, do not only look at their advantages, also acknowledge their disadvantages. Be careful. If one develops concentration incorrectly, one will give rise to laziness. Gautama Buddha, in this case, encouraged the application of sati, mindfulness, for inspection and caution. When one attains samadhi, concentration, one asks, has this concentration deviated towards idleness and inertia? That's one of the questions. The second question one should ask is, has it become an impediment? The heedless indulgence in pleasure of concentration is harmful. One must be careful and know how to apply concentration. Do not fall into heedlessness, apamado. When people experience happiness, especially sense pleasure, kamaguna, it is very likely that they will become carried away, infatuated, enchanted by it, resulting in heedlessness. When experiencing happiness, they lose a sense of urgency and do not wish to do anything else. Although there remain things to be done, they become negligent, indifferent, indulgent, resulting in a weak character. For this reason, those people who have experienced happiness and yet remain unmindful, who are indulgent, apathetic, and heedless, become weak and corrupted. They may even meet with calamity and ruin. Many individuals, community, nations, and even civilizations throughout history have fallen into this cycle of decline. When looking at these disadvantages, it may appear that happiness is a very low value, but happiness is simply happiness. It is the corrupted and defiled human beings themselves who deal with happiness incorrectly and thus end up experiencing harmful effects. Here we must return to the subject of sense pleasure, kamaguna, which has a bearing on almost everyone's life. Although we have discussed sense pleasure already, here we will focus on it directly in relation to spiritual development, spiritual practice. The dangers or the disadvantages, the disadvantages of sense pleasures, of happiness, dependent on material things serving personal gratification, are extensive. People thus require the supervision or protection by way of the 5 precepts. This points to a basic drawback or a weakness of sense pleasure. It is a case for competition and exploitation among human beings. The things provided gratification are external. They are insufficient in number to fulfill the desires of everyone, because each person desires things for himself and wishes to obtain the maximum amount of these things. They see each other as adversaries. People thus conflict and compete with one another. This is followed by deception, dishonesty, and deceit, a search for followers and a pursuit of power, various forms of persecution and abuse. The pursuits of sense pleasure is the source of conflict and oppression between people and between nations. It is the source of war, leading to all kinds of suffering and affliction. People then search without end for solution. Their voices call for peace, but their hands banish swords. This is the first dangers of sense pleasures. Social oppression, which spreads suffering outwards, has its root in the mind. Give an example of insatiable desire, which is common characteristics of tanha, craving. Moreover, this insatiability, which conforms to vicarious hunger for things and the inability to feel one has enough creates dukkha within the individual. The more people get, the more they want. A specific degree on the amount of things that once provided happiness is eventually no longer satisfactory. The feeling of joy and excitement is replaced by indifference, apathy, and a sense of ennui. Once boredom sets in, those things that at one time seemed indispensable now must simply be endured. Those things that once provided happiness are now the cause for suffering. The nature of desire has changed. Now one may wish for the object to go away, to disappear. This is one form of affliction. At one time, one may have been penniless. If one obtains $1,000, one is over the moon. One earns a wage of $1 million a day. One is exceedingly happy. Eventually, one wishes to earn $1 trillion a day. One imagines that with such a wage of all one's desires will be fulfilled, one will experience delight. Indeed, if this happiness that one earns such a wage, at first one is blissful and content. A closer look at this dynamic reveals the gradual expansion of tanha in two ways. First, when one obtains a regular wage of 25 cents per day, if one day one obtains 50 cents, an amount that has one more time provided a greater sense of joy, one is unhappy. The same thing that once provided happiness now causes suffering. Second, although one may have convinced that by earning a wage of 10 cents per day, one wouldn't wish for anything more. Eventually, one feels apathy and boredom. One then thinks that one needs to earn a wage of 75 cents a day in order to feel satisfied. This target will increase without end. Gautama Buddha, stated that even if one were to turn the mountain into gold, it would not gratify the desire of one individual, because the desire is insatiable, as mentioned above. Gautama Buddha emphasized that the subject repeatedly so that his disciples would recognize that human desire is limitless. Tanha is endless. So craving is endless. This desire creates oppression and affliction in society. And it also creates layers of suffering within an individual. One aspect to this suffering is the feeling of boredom and apathy.